I think the thing about Cenk is that he's not like, I don't think he, a character implies that there isn't like a genuine attitude change. Okay? A character implies that there isn't a genuine attitude change. I think he's just like genuinely has a difference in opinion in the issues that he speaks on, where he's like legitimately more conservative on those issues. Whether it happened over the course of the last couple of years, but I don't know if it happened like super fast. But I think that there has been an attitude shift where he is. One more giveaway for good measure. Sure. I like that chatter also is implying that like people use Zionist as a word to substitute for, you know, Jewish person. And he wants to harass, like in this hypothetical, like, that's cool. The word capitulation will be in my bingo card. It's the one you're most used, Lamau. It's because, you know, it's pretty big. What is this? Cenk is 100% cooked, bruh.
Majority Report jumped in, and Lance from the Serfs, and all the other little dirtbags jumped in, and they were like, no, Cenk and Tanner are turning right. The 13 dudes.
I think I got to him a little bit, though, last night after Shaky Cenksgiving, where I had a conversation with him. Because he was like, why do you think? Because you know, we were talking about like why CNN and all these other like traditional outlets are more receptive to what I have to say than him. And he always thinks it's because I'm hot and young and cool and hip. And he's not. He's old and rugged. And I was like, no, dude, it's because of the way you carry yourself. Like I have my criticisms of mainstream outlets all the time. I have my criticisms of other commentators. I have my disagreements with them. But like the energy that you bring to any conversation, including someone like myself who loves you, like I straight up told him, I was like, if anyone that I had actually talked to, anyone that I like quote unquote debated or whatever, treated me like the way you did, like I would never ever in a million years allow that. Like I would never allow that to happen. And if you're having that energy with me, someone, you know, you love, your nephew, then yeah, I'm assuming you carry that energy with a lot of people you don't know that well, who don't have that familial relationship. And yeah, that breeds resentment, that breeds anger. And it's like overall very unnecessary, you know? And I think he got that. He understood that a little bit. Cause I was like, because I basically was like, listen, I would never allow another person to talk to me like the way you talk to me. And you know, of course, it doesn't mean anything between you and I because, you know, you've seen me, okay? Like, you're my uncle. I love you. But, you know, like that's, if you're doing that to me, I'm assuming you do that to other people as well. And yeah, they probably don't like that. This was after dinner. Yeah. I think the thing about Cenk is that he's not like, I don't think a character implies that there isn't like a genuine attitude change. Okay? A character implies that there isn't a genuine attitude change. I think he's just like genuinely has a difference in opinion in the issues that he speaks on, where he's like legitimately more conservative on those issues. Whether it happened over the course of the last couple of years, but I don't know if it happened like super fast. But I think that there has been an attitude shift where he is, and I basically tried to get him to come to that conclusion. Like I tried to walk through the steps slowly but surely by being like, there was a point where you were a fighter. You've always been a progressive fighter, right? You did not worry yourself about like what the democratic wishes of the base of support in the party looks like. You don't worry about that when it comes to Medicare for all, because you know that's right. And you know that if you champion that message, then like people will inevitably come on board with that. But it seems like for a lot of these other issues, you're willing to cast aside certain groups in the way that you communicate about these issues because you're terrified of the fact that there is no solution that the Democratic Party will offer them. Like even the abortion conversation, that wasn't supposed to be like me finding out what his perspective is. I was just I thought that we were in agreement on abortion, that any sort of legislative hurdle like that on a process that already is like automatically limited to the people that need it desperately, given the invasive nature of the surgery and the cost of it alone, that any sort of additional legislative hurdle is going to cause problems in the same vein that like any sort of restriction on abortion causes problems. And then I wanted to use that as an example to bring it back to, I wanted to use that as an example to bring it back to the subject matter on, like, you know, 3 strikes and you're out. It's a felony conversation, you know? Because when you add additional restrictions on our already very restrictive, very draconian criminal justice system, you end up, you know, it's the dynamic that, you know, 3 jewelry thefts, like the guy who stole jewelry 3 times versus the guy who stole pizza 3 times. You know what I mean? Like, there are a significantly larger number of people who will be stealing 3 slices of pizza over, you know, doing jewelry theft. And yes, I think that the way it works is, the way the law works is, you're supposed to, because it's so broad sweeping, yes, you either say, nah, f it, like, all of those people have to go to prison. All of those people that, like, steal, you know, here and there, they have to go to prison because they're routine offenders and repeat offenders, rather than it just, you know, as long as the guy who's, like, stealing jewelry is going to prison too. I don't think that that's all right. Anyway, your point about your core values being that you're okay with a jewel thief being free if it means the 3 pizza guy is free also resonated well, I think. I hope people understood what I was saying. Like, that doesn't mean that, you know, we shouldn't prosecute rape or whatever. And that doesn't even mean we shouldn't prosecute grand larceny or theft of all these different varieties. It's just that, like, when it comes to criminal justice reform, you either have the opinion of, like, we need more deterrence, we need more violence in the criminal justice system that will operate as a deterrent to stop people and make people think twice before they do engage in crime, or we need to dramatically move in the opposite direction, where we focus on rehabilitation in an effort to lower recidivism rates, as other countries have successfully done. And we need to address the root causes in which crime manifests. And I think there is a crisis here born out of nihilism, born out of being a progressive champion for 25 plus years, as Cenk has been, where he is basically throughout time recognized that, like, no solutions are coming, no broad sweeping solutions that will tackle the issue exactly at the root cause. You know, fixing the housing market, adding additional social safety nets, after school programs and the like. So he's like, we have to stop the bleeding. And the only way to stop the bleeding is by being even more aggressive and being even more violent in our penalties. And that in and of itself is a terrifying prospect. That's when you cave to the in your mind, when you give in, and it's kind of terrifying. It's you know, it's something that I've noticed, that we are at the you know, we're at the precipice of Weimar Germany style governance here. We have, like, the hyper nationalist, hyper right wing Republican Party, and we have the liberals that are also caving on those fears that they very effectively communicate to. And not only is it, but those fears are also coming out of, like, you know, real societal problems. And you know, I fear that if there isn't a massive base that recognizes the problem and works actively to try and fix it, we're just going to keep bouldering towards. I think he envies you and it's poisonous. You're ridiculous, dude. That's my uncle. He does not envy me. He is very proud and very happy for my success. That's crazy.
Douchebags are right.
We
need to protect every free surgery.
We got
even in China.
Okay,
even though we don't have nothing to do with China.
You gotta
we
stop.
hate them. They're Nazis.
You gotta okay.
I mean, I'm 100% right. Every dirtbag show did it.
You gotta calm
Every
down.
dirtbag show did it. Tell me I'm wrong.
This is reframing an issue that is now we've moved away from the electoral consequences of a trans ad to your own personal anger and frustration that you have with left-wing media online.
Look, the idiots are making everyone think they are the left. They're like, we're the left, we're the real left. Okay, we are super extreme. We want to, oh, yes, we're the left. And oh, Nazi.
Yeah, I just don't think that this is like, I think no one in this no one that was mentioned in this conversation has any real motion whatsoever in moving the needle. Like, no disrespect to anybody, you know, Lance and the Serfs, or the Young Turks, like even together, we have no motion. The most motion that Jake ever had was with the Justice Democrats, right? Alongside Kyle Kalinske. And that wasn't because of the massive audiences that they had. That was because they were actually, like the Working Families Party or the DSA in certain instances, like successfully moving the Democratic Party in the correct direction. That's what brought us the squad, right? And it came only because of, yeah, I mean, that progressive swing also happened because of Bernie Sanders too, which opened up the floodgates for that kind of communication. So yeah, Sunrise Movement too. And I think like getting lost in the minutia of online commentary stuff is silly. I don't know. It's just not good. It's not good. It's not smart. Do you think that America's culture of violence contributes to our crime issue in a memorable way? I just feel like our culture we grow up in America is different than Norway, for example. I think American culture contributes to it, but culture is just a reflection of the material realities. So I think it's historically speaking, American culture is developed off of American proto-capitalist sentiment early on with the Pilgrims and has evolved into what it is now, this like incredibly violent aberration. So American culture was far more left during FDR and earlier. Yeah, on certain aspects, you're right. On like adjusted to its time, on economic improvements, yes. But obviously, socially speaking, fuck no. You know what I mean? Like, we had the Jim Crow South at that point. The New Deal also specifically carved out black people. Like, this is not, this is pre-civil rights. We had internment camps for Japanese people. There were a lot of progressive policies that were implemented in terms of economic policies. But there was also a shit ton of regressive, a shit ton of reactionary policies that were also implemented for marginalized populations. And I don't think that it's appropriate to cast these people aside. I don't think it's appropriate to write them out. You know what I mean? So I disagree with that. Friend of the show on Friend of the Show Violence. Yeah, I have seen this and I love Ested. And now that I'm one of the pod Johns, I feel conflicted here. You know what I mean? I love Ested. He's smart. And, I always got his back. You know what I mean? He cooked here too. You okay? Have you not gotten enough credit for breaking the news that Joe Biden is old? You think you'd have more shame, but I understand that this is just like a game of Sims for you, he said. A good ad for the importance of independent media. I think Ested should go on the Pod Johns. I think the Pod Johns should have him on. I hate seeing my oomps fight, my Twitter oomps, The girls are fighting, yeah. I grew up watching Jake in high school and he was a major influence on me politically, but I became totally disillusioned in 2016 and disengaged until I found your commentary. It feels like I outgrew TYT. I mean, maybe. I think that these guys also think that like there is a real amount of like audience capture that like those who are on the hyper left, woke left, whatever the fuck you want to call it, people like myself engage in. Like they can't comprehend that like I genuinely don't give a shit about trans people participating with cis people in athletic competition. Like, I just don't care. And not only do I not care, but I also understand exactly where that fucking anger and resentment comes from. And it's weird because like they also understand where that anger and resentment comes from. This is a deliberate mechanism to create a permission structure to shit on trans people. Like, yeah, so I'm not going to play along with that, And I think every time you even have that conversation, whether in defense of it or whether you are there to like showcase how rational you are as opposed to these like crazies on the left or whatever, you're basically giving it more legitimacy. You're giving it more air. And I don't think that it's necessary other than talk about how fucking silly and insidious and ridiculous these bills are, these anti-trans bills are. By pointing to the madness of it all. I think that in and of itself is a much more successful strategy, like of deflection. And I don't know why. I just don't understand why people can't see it the way that I do. And it's my fault. I should be able to communicate this a little bit better than I have. And I don't think I've done a good enough job. Granting a permission of persecution because some people don't like it. They said that for desegregation. Exactly. Every step of the way, there is going to be every step of the way, there is going to be people that are you know, not going to agree with whatever progress that you want to implement, right? People don't like change. That's a stable thing, okay? People love stability and hate change. I think it's our job as progressives to communicate. It's our job as progressives to basically communicate why these things are, you know, these attacks are silly, or why these things are not a bad thing at all. Why these policy measures are not bad at all. If they are making it easier for people to be themselves in public, and it doesn't hurt a single fucking person. So it's very frustrating. People don't hate change; they fear change. Our job is to educate people so they don't fear. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Anyway, I don't think he gave in. I think he's grabbing onto what is left to grab onto in his view. He doesn't see help being given in his and everyone else's community. And I get it, to be honest. What? Do you think you could see yourself going even further beyond the Super Saiyan left? No. This is the maximum left position that I will be on board with. Who knows? It's understandable you didn't have the best answers considering his family. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there to, like, you know, rip him apart. I think one of my biggest, I think going forward, if I'm going to debate people, I'm just going to, like, debate people that I hate instead of trying to have, like, a normal, polite conversation where I try to reason with them. Because I'm either, this is where I thrive, okay? We can have polite disagreements, but I'm, like, here to explain and reason, you know, what my position is and explain what my position is. But if I go into a conversation with this kind of energy, but the other side is basically there to just, like, yell and shit, yeah, it's just not, you know, like, I can't match the energy with my uncle. I love him. It's not going to happen. You know, I'm not going to be combative. The guy I was talking to him, Piers Morgan, was he was like a peanut gallery guy, Vinny from Patrick Bet David. His podcast, like, that's a great example. Like, that's a person I can, like, belittle and duke it out with. Yeah. This means the end of Cenksgiving then, yes? No, of course not. I'll still have conversations with Cenk. No, no, we're gonna keep doing Cenksgiving, chat. That's gonna keep happening. You know? I'm sure you've had heated comments with Cenk before and it was barely heated from your end, but fair play going in front of 30K. Please never say I am the left. Yeah, no, I don't. Let Unc smoke a joint before or something? Yeah. What is this? The epidemic of white and lonely, right? I don't think I'm going to watch that. But I thought it was on Piers Morgan. You can tell how much of the community is new. Yeah. I think Cenk is the perfect person to have these sorts of conversations with, though, because, like, he can say anything and everything he wants. I will never not love him. You know what I mean? He's my uncle. So, like, it doesn't change that dynamic at all for me, even a little bit. Like, it's not like it's not ever going to turn into it's never going to sour my relationship with him, you know? What if you call LeBron overrated? Okay, then I have all the smoke. What is this? Jimmy the Giant, the real foreign invasion of Britain. I think you two need a moderator next year, since there were several points you brought up that just never got addressed. Yeah. There is something very funny about, like, he despises Gavin Newsom and all these, like, woke progressive DAs or whatever. And I asked him specifically about, like, Gavin Newsom, who directly participated in, like, clearing out a homeless encampment. And he was like, it's too little too late. He just did that because people were pressuring him. And it's like, at that point, I was like, damn, like, you were just right wing on this position. Like, that's exactly what a Republican would say. Okay. Like, and it's ironic because, like, the entire point that I was making is that you can never get right wingers to be on board with your policies. It literally does not matter because they will always turn around and still call you out and say that, nah, you're still in favor of this. And he kind of did that for Gavin Newsom, you know? Gavin Newsom is threatening cities. If y'all don't start clearing encampments, they won't get any money. Yeah. At one point, he said he was conservative on laws or judges or something. Yeah, he used that not as a pejorative. That's the thing. He used that as a positive. But yeah, do we have a playlist from Themasis? I don't know if he sent one or not. Because if not, I'm gonna move into some other stuff. How are you starting up hardcore? When are you starting up hardcore WoW? Right now. Just kidding. Have you heard about the mass automation / layoffs / automation implementation at NBC and CBS? No. Yeah. I did want to watch Ordinary Things, The End of England. Now that I'm going to England. Are you upset about Cenksgiving? No, I thought it was decent content. I wish he wasn't. I always get sad when I see, you know, my uncle basically come out and yell so much. And there's a reason. What is this? An uncle kicked his nephew's ass on Thanksgiving. John Molera. What is this? ACP? Jank becoming my favorite lib on the internet is not something I expected to happen this year, but here we are. He essentially got us on to admit what I've been saying about him. He's held captive by the most vocal and woke sections of his audience. Yeah, dude, I should do a podcast with the fucking anti-Semite like Jake Shields instead, so I don't get held captive by my woke audience. Like, these people are so unserious, dude. And they just genuinely cannot understand that these are my opinions. You know what I mean? I yell at my audience on a daily fucking basis. There are plenty of people that are directly that have like the opposite fucking opinion of me on many issues in my community that go above and beyond to be annoying. And I yell at them all the time. Anyone that spent any time in here knows that I don't take kindly to wrecker behavior coming from rad libs in this community. Okay? And yet people don't understand where I'm coming from because I try to offer a little bit more nuance, and that is considered impossible to contend with. No, I'm so captive to my audience. I'm actually secretly right-wing on a bunch of shit, but I just maintain this position for no reason, even though, you know, being openly right-wing is very beneficial for me. Why the fuck would I not do that if I had that opinion?